Alright, for this video we want to go over a sample earned income tax credit for the 2023 year. So we've got the Schedule EIC here. It's part of our sample taxpayers full 1040, so we'll go over this as well. We do have the IRS publication 596 for the EIC, and this will be helpful for reference because it lays out who qualifies, what are the limitations, and it includes the tables that we'll need to actually look up the amount of earned income credit for our taxpayer. And then I have just one slide here covering some of the background and then the fact pattern itself. So the earned income credit, it's generally available to most taxpayers that are living in the U.S. So unfortunately, if you're a U.S. citizen living overseas, you generally don't get this. And the credit mostly benefits the lower to middle income taxpayers. And that's because when you make what the IRS considers too much money, the earned income credit phases out to zero. So what is a qualifying child for EIC purposes? This is really important. Now, you don't need to have a child in order to get the earned income credit, but if you do have a child, it increases the amount that you're able to claim. And so qualifying children for the EIC, it's a different standard from when we talk about the child tax credit. So EIC gives you a little more leeway, right? For example, the child just has to be under 18 at the end of the year, or under 24 if they're a full-time student, right? Or if it's a child that's permanently and totally disabled and that's your dependent, then that qualifies as well. So in contrast, the CTC, for example, you have to be under 17 at the end of the year, right, and a number of other different issues, but the age thing is probably the greatest difference between qualifying child for the EIC versus the child tax credit. And again, the publication 596 will have the tables, and so we'll look up on the table how much our taxpayer gets here. So in our example here, we've got John Q. taxpayer. He's a single parent with one son, and so he's filing as head of household. Right, so he's unmarried, but if you have a dependent in your home, you can generally qualify for this head of household status. So during 2023, his W-2 wages were $42,500, and he had no other income. And so his son, Alex, is 8, and he lives with his dad 12 months out of the year. So full year living with his father. Now, if we have a look at the return, and then we'll look up the EIC tables and see how this amount is calculated. So we've got John's 1040 here. We can see head of household status and his dependent. We've got his son. You should enter the Social Security number, the relationship. If the child doesn't have a Social Security number yet, you have to apply for one. And so you would extend your tax return and then go ahead and file when you actually get the SSN assigned. One mistake I see often made is they leave this blank, or you put applied for in there. That's not going to work. The IRS is just going to reject it. So $42,500 are his wages. He's got the standard deduction for head of household filers, and then the net taxable income of $21,700. Now, John's also claiming the child tax credit here, but I won't cover that in this video. We're just going to focus on the earned income credit. I do have a separate video covering how to go over this 8812, so I'll put a link to that in the description. So if we look at our EIC schedule here, so this has to be included with the return. If you don't include this, it'll delay the processing, so make sure you add it to your 1040. So we've got the EIC for 2023, and then we enter the information on the qualifying child for John. So we've got the child's name, Social Security number of the child, child's year of birth, and so as it notes here in the italics, if born after 2004 and the child is younger than you, that's the case here, you can skip lines 4A and 4B and go directly to 5. So we've skipped over A and B, child's relationship to you, he's our son, and then lived with us for 12 months during the year. All right, so that's the EIC schedule. Now you notice no numbers here as far as what amount we get. That's where we look at the actual EIC tables in the worksheet. So the publication does have a worksheet to help you figure out how much credit you can claim. And so starting at the top here, they're looking for line 1Z, so that's our compensation, right? So if we go back to page 1040, The line item 1A through 1Z is all of the compensation that you would be paid during the year. We just have line 1A for the W-2 wages, so $42,500 is our compensation. And then complete the rest of the schedule as appropriate, right? So what they're trying to do here with this worksheet is, make sure that, one, you have earned compensation, because if you don't have any earned income, you can't claim the EITC. And they need to make sure that your overall income isn't too much and you don't have too much investment income. Because if you have too much investment income, you can't claim it. And if your income is too high, you also can't claim it. So $42,500 is going to be the amount of income we need to look up. So if we go to the publication 596, and then if we jump down to the tables within the publication, we can look up the amount of income and the amount of credit that we're going to be able to claim. So the way this worksheet works, on the left-hand side here, we're looking up the amount of earned income per the table, and then based on our filing status and the number of qualifying children. So in our case here, we've got $42,500, so we want to scroll all the way down until we find that $42,500 figure. And so we're getting close here. Okay, so $42,500, we're going to be in this range here. So again, if the amount is at least $42,500 but less than whatever the next range is, you notice that it's all in $50 increments. So we can see here $42,500 to $42,550. That's the range we're looking at. And then based on our filing status here, we are head of household, so the single head of household, qualifying surviving spouse, and we have one qualifying child. So if we go down to $42,500, move over here from left to right, we can see $645 is the amount of credit that we get based on our income and the number of qualifying children that we have. So $645 is going to be the credit. We can enter that on our worksheet here and then go ahead and report that on page 2 of our 1040. So if we go back to the 1040, page 2 here, on line 27 in the payments section is where we add our EIC amount. So we've got earned income tax credit on line 27. And another reminder note there, right? If you have a qualifying child, make sure you're attaching Schedule EIC. So we've got line 27, EIC, $645. And so that increases the amount of payments that we made during the year, and thus increases our tax refund, or would reduce the amount of tax that we owe depending on how much money you had paid in during the year. Okay, so that covers it for this tutorial. I hope that was helpful. Again, make sure to review the publication in more detail. In Chapter 1 here, you can see that they have, or Chapter 1 and 2, they have the rules for who qualifies as a taxpayer, and then who qualifies as a qualifying child. And again, qualifying children, the more qualifying children you have, generally the amount of credit is going to be increased. So, all right, so that covers it for this video. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. I try to get to as many of those as I can. And as always, I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Thanks.